Welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast, hosted by Dave Roberts. Humanity possesses a unique skill, the ability to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. This podcast embraces that ability, offering learning opportunities through conversations with extraordinary guests. Dave aims to leave a positive mark on individuals around the world. So before you dive into today's episode, please share this podcast with your network, including friends, family, and colleagues. And please consider leaving a rating or review. Your support makes all the difference.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, and today it is my pleasure to have as my guest Thomas Scaria. Thomas is based in Vancouver, British Columbia. He is a resilience and accountability coach and the founder of Steps Along the Way, a personal development initiative that provides coaching services aimed at fostering growth mindsets for program and project managers. His expertise lies in helping individuals navigate life's challenges with resilience while offering them the tools for accountability to reach their personal and professional goals. Through his innovative approach, the Marathon Mindset Method, Thomas has made significant strides in transforming how professionals perceive success, fulfillment, and resilience in their careers. As an advocate for personal growth, Thomas believes in the power of vulnerability and accountability in fostering meaningful change. Thomas shares that growth happens when we embrace vulnerability and take responsibility for our journey. Amen to that. I am in total lockstep with that philosophy. And with that, Thomas, welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast. It is a pleasure having you on the program today.
Dave, for me, it is not only a pleasure, privilege, honor, you name it. It's a beautiful symbiotic connection that we have come today and we are having this conversation. So I'm totally under your space and let's have it. Thank you again.
You are welcome. And we have to give a really big shout out to Noemi Barris. Noemi is a podcast agent. I've known Noemi for several years now. She has referred several great guest contributors to me, and she's very supportive of the podcast. She introduced us on LinkedIn. We had a virtual conversation, and we had another virtual conversation, and voila, here we are recording our episode today.
Yes.
So,
Fantastic.
yes. So my first question for you, tell our audience about the major experiences or experience that has shaped your life path and passions today.
So for the majority of my life, I had existed. When I'm looking, there was a lot of amazing things happening around in my life. And it was just coasting through. That would be the right word. I was just coasting through. I've done my background in IT. I've done my MBA. I've done my project management. And I've been a project manager for IT infrastructure. Things were going on well till 2020. I believe a lot of us audience can remember 2020, the time of COVID.
Yep.
Not too far back. And it was going on. There were struggles around. But there was one day, April 6th, 2020, wherein I got the news my dad had passed away. I could not go back. I was based in Vancouver. Of course, all the flights were grounded. I could not go back to India. I saw his entire funeral on the WhatsApp video with just few people, because my dad, he was a very well respected member of the community. And had it been some other time, there would have been not less than around 300 people attending the funeral. But that day, I believe it was less than 4 people who came in. I went through it. It was a grievous loss. And in 12 hours, when I was still working towards processing this grief, I got a call. In fact, I was calling up my company, asking them for a couple of days that I could just pause all the work. But they gave me a call, and so I told, this is what's been happening to me. They told, "Oh, we are sorry about it." And in the same breath, they continued that you're no longer with the company. So for a person with my background or my cultural heritage, which is from India, two of the things which we hold quite a bit high is, number one is family. The second thing is our career and our professional space. Losing both of them on a singular day hit me hard. But more than anything, Dave, it left me a little perplexed that what's exactly happening over here. There are times wherein when the universe, God, or whatever, it hits you so hard, you're just left absolutely shocked. There's no words, there's nothing that can tell. But I accepted it. And maybe it's one of those strengths that I've got is connectedness. That comes in from the Gallup's strengths, connectedness. There are no coincidences in life. It never struck me at that point of time. But within a day or two, I was surprised at my own resilience, you could say, is that I felt, yeah, it happened. So what? That was one of the question. And for me, I've been a recreational runner. And okay, before just segue into that, I had got into running around 2012. No, sorry, 2010. And prior to that, I was not at all, had not really have any athletic bone in my body. I went from absolutely, I had a, I mean, string of unhealthy habits, whether we are talking about 2 packs a day smoking, a lot of chips, a lot of just watching TV, or just a lot of procrastination, etc. But 2010, I got introduced to running. And for some unknown reason that I couldn't fathom out, I got into long distance running. And this went on. I was very much a recreational runner. And during that time, during the month of August, I started getting into the element of going out because Vancouver was still open. You could go out, and Vancouver, the city by itself, is a very, very beautiful city. So, but I could still go out and continue with my running. And within few weeks, I got a grounding, a space. Again, whether we call it as universe, I call it as God. It provided me the anchor for my depth that I could continue. At that point of time, I said, if this has given me that solace, I need to give back. And coincidentally, it's funny how the universe works around. Is that sometimes they say, be careful about what you ask for. And I got a mailer asking that if I could do some donation. I said, I do not know about donation because I do not really have a job. And I am in a space what to do. But for some reason, I said, let me earn it. Because I had said that I want to give back. So I said, okay, I will run for a cause and raise money. And I took on this particular cause of doing 5 weekends, 5 marathons. So every weekend I would run 26 miles or a 42-kilometer run. And this was to raise money for cancer research. During the time of COVID, I got more than $2,400 in donation. But Dave, what took place during that time was I realized I never knew that I had that capabilities of because every weekend to do that particular run was a challenge. But I took it on to myself. And then when I look back, I said, there is more to a human. And I said, looking at my own self, I said, there's more to humanity itself, that resilience is a muscle. And that's when I got into this element of that. Every human is resilient. There could be many factors. And one of the factors is that if they take on a cause which is greater than themselves, you would be surprised where you would reach. So that has been my turning point where I got into the space of resilience. I was already a coach. I started building up and I realized, why should I hold this space only for myself? And I started developing into a course where about resilience itself, how people can grow. I started taking chapters, inspirations, modalities from my running, my lessons which I've learned, and I got into resilience plus rise or the marathon mindset, and that's where I am.
It's interesting when you mentioned on the same day your dad passing, April 6, 2020, and losing your job. Those are two significant losses regardless of culture. You lose a parent, there's that grief process that you go through that's related to the physical absence of your loved one. And then there's symbolic loss of losing a job that you were invested in and that was very much a part of your identity, as it is with anybody's identity. I mean, I think people spend more time at work than they do
True.
at home. And so to lose both of those on the same day, it doesn't sound like you got much of an explanation for why you were terminated from your job. The fact that you were just able to say, okay, now what? The universe is providing me another door to walk through if I so choose. And you've taken up the Resilience Plus Rise format. You've been running half marathons to raise money for cancer. So you took your pain and you translated it into purpose, where you could have just very simply just checked out for a bit. And I don't think anybody would have blamed you having those two very significant losses if
True.
you decided to check out for a bit. But here's what I discovered from my own journey. You can only wallow in the muck of grief for so long. And then
True.
once you wallow in the muck, then you got to make a decision to wallow through it. So there comes a time in that journey where there's a turning point where you could say, am I going to move forward and accept that my life is going to be the way it is without the physical presence of my loved ones or without my particular dream job? And am I going to move forward with acceptance, still honoring my grief and deciding that I still want to make an impact anyway? And that's how individuals develop resilience. And plus you mentioned connecting to something greater than yourself. I would imagine running is like you're part of a community. If you're
True.
running marathons, you're running with different runners from all over the world. So it teaches us diversity. It teaches us how to interact with other cultures. It teaches us to be a part of like you said, something greater than ourselves. And that's one of the key components to developing awareness in general.
True. But Dave, just a point over here that these 5 marathons that I'd taken on was just a solo journey because it was time of COVID. I could not gather somebody or the other saying that run with me because there was this concept of social distancing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just on my own self. And just a very important point which I remembered over there was it is painful when you're running 26 miles or 42 kilometers. It is painful. First week, yeah, you're in that euphoria state of mind that, hey, man, I'm doing it for something. Second week is okay. But then by the time it comes to the third week, you're hurting. But I said, then it comes to the why. Why am I doing it?
Yeah.
And it came to a simple insight is that I'm not doing really for cancer research. I'm doing it for the people who I call as the bedside warriors, the people who are around the bed of the person going through cancer. The person going through cancer can cry, weep, scream, they can do everything. But the persons who are around the bed, when they cry late in the night, who wipes away their tears? Who knows their pain? So whenever I would be feeling hurtful in a space of being hurt, I would say, this, I'm doing it for you. And I would take another step. And when you put again another step and another step, you get the distance across.
Yeah. And when you are running for somebody else or doing something for somebody else, I think you keep that in mind and you just push forward in spite of any physical pain or fatigue
True,
because you're running not only for yourself, you're running for somebody else.
true.
And you may not even know that person you're running for, but you're still running for.
Of course. That's what it's all about.
Well, and as Maury Schwartz, the late Maury Schwartz, the subject of Tuesdays with Maury, has always said, giving is living. There's a lot of truth in that aphorism of his, is that when we give, we become alive because it's a form of connection.
True. So true. And yes, that gave rise to what you see at the back and this book, Resilience Plus Rise.
So tell us about Resilience Plus Rise. Tell us about the book. Tell us what you want readers to take away from it.
So, what I have done is that I came to a point that everybody has got the skill set to get themselves to the next level. They can do it slowly but steadily. There were lessons which I learned. One of the key lessons, if I could say it in brief, I said was something called as pace yourself to success. That is PACE, pace yourself to success. And for anything in life, whether you're talking about running, whether you're talking about your professional life, whether you're talking about your building up your family, anything, what is required is P stands for patience, A stands for accountability, C stands for and commitment, and E stands for excellence. So when you have these four pillars below you, that is patience, you got to be patient about what you're doing. Do it with your whole heart. Without do it as they say in one of the scriptures has been given us that when you're doing your work, do it as if you're going doing it for God or for the universe without any outcome. But be patient about what you're doing. Second thing is being accountable. You're not holding other person accountable for your success. You're holding your own self to be accountable. Commitment, as I mentioned, I'm a runner. I can be a fair weather runner, but I can never be a runner like that because I cannot wait for the weather to be good for me to get into running or anything for that matter. But every day, in every way, step by step, that helps me to build up. And finally, when you're doing it, do it good. So these were the lessons which came across, and I started writing the book. Now, here's the beautiful part about what life gives you is that. So I started writing the book in 2020, yeah, 2022, I would say. 2021 and 2022, I started writing the book. And I would write it here and there, but I was not really invested in it. But I wanted to write the book. And this is what life always provides. You know what? If you got a goal, it will do something in a way that will make you complete the book. So I said that, okay, whenever it comes, I will finish off the book. But it was again April comes up. April 2023. By then I had run around 85 long distance. Over here, I'm talking about from long distances are from 42 kilometers or 26 miles to 65 miles, which is around 110 kilometers. I wanted to give my final break as 85th run, and that was I said I will go to South Africa and do a ultra marathon of 56 kilometers, two oceans. Around 3 minutes before the run, I'm waiting at the start line at the corral, and there was another run was getting late to get into their corral, and they ran across me and hit my heel, and I just went plack on my knee. It hurt. It hurt bad, but I was not bothered because the sense of feeling that you're going to be running in South Africa for this particular run, it was so exciting. And the gun came on and I started running, but I started feeling the pain. By the time it came to around 13 kilometers or 14 kilometers, I looked down. My leg had become soaking wet with blood. I realized my kneecap had kind of come out. It had made itself like another knee and it had become all purple oozes in it. And what mattered was I said, I don't need to complete this run. I don't need to prove anything to anybody. Quietly waited for the sweeping bus, sat in the bus. And there also the question which came up to me was, okay, now this, now what? So if life has taught me this one, what does it mean? And which means I went back, when I came back to Vancouver and went to the doctor, they said, please no running for some time, at least 7 to 8 months. And that took away a certain part of me because that was my go to space. But what gave me that was the time to refocus on the book and get it done. And that's how I completed the book. Because I says that whenever life gives you a downfall, if you in the hindsight, there's always something which comes out of it.
Yeah.
And as
Yeah.
you mentioned just a few minutes back, you got an option of wallowing in that space or getting up, shaking it out, and seeing what next.
There are really no accidents, there's just synchronicities. But it happens to many of us, and it did for me, it would question, well, why did this happen to me? And then eventually you question, well, why not? Because when that door closed, another one opened, but it took time for me to realize that what happened to me was actually a calling for me to achieve or to find my higher self and to use that moving forward towards service to others. But when it's
True.
happening for many of us, and for me included, and here's where the accountability piece comes in. I couldn't see it. All I could see was the pain, of my losses, the pain of my tragedies. I couldn't see, how am I going to get through this without my daughter in my life? How am I going to get through this? How am I going to get through this pain? And then eventually, with a lot of support, with a lot of work, with a lot of commitment to finding a community that would help me redefine my perspective, I realized that my daughter is still here. She's just here in a different form. I could still maintain that
Beautiful.
bond with her. And together, I moved with her to help others who are going through challenge. But when my daughter first, as I call it, transitioned from the physical world to the spiritual world in 2003, Thomas, I couldn't see that. I was living a parent's worst nightmare,
Mm.
and I didn't see any way out of it. But eventually, and this is what I also like about your framework, patience. Progress is not linear. It's very, very circular. There's stops and goes. But as long as you keep moving, you're going to reach your goal. And the accountability piece. I believe in accountability. If I can be accountable to you for my behavior, that empower you become supportive to me as opposed to trying to hold my hand. If I say, look, I need to do this, I'm accountable, but I want you to support me, that's a lot different than you doing it for me. You know, Ram Dass has said we're all just walking each other home. Well, the only way we can walk each other home is we're accountable to ourselves, but yet we rely on other individuals to help us stay accountable and reach our goals. So, and the consistency, I love that piece because it isn't the fastest to the finish line. It's just who gets there, you know.
True.
And
One
everybody,
step up.
yeah, everybody's going to get there at their own pace, and therefore we can define excellence on our own terms, not on
True.
anybody else's terms. So that's
True.
what I like about the pace framework. It just allows for so much individuality, and it allows people to move towards their goals at a pace that's comfortable for them and not at anybody else's pace. So I think it's a great framework.
True. And actually, you mentioned so beautifully about Ram Dass is that we all are helping one another to reach home. And I say it on in my podcast is that we all are angels with one wing. When we hold another, that's when we start flying higher.
And I'd mentioned this on other podcasts, Thomas. There's those transient angels that come into our life for just a moment at a time, but yet they get us through a difficult moment. Now, we may never see them again,
True.
but they were there for that particular moment that we needed them. And sometimes we lose sight of that. We're wallowing in the muck of our own despair. It's like we worry about, well, who isn't there? But I suggest individuals, let's reframe this. Who was there as opposed to who wasn't there? And what did they do for you for the moment they were there? How did they help you get through a difficult moment?
So beautifully, so beautiful. And in fact, this particular element has put me in a space that if I'm doing something, especially now if I'm doing something for somebody else, it helps me that further to step ahead. Example, if I may say, is that just last year around this time, again, I got posting on Instagram or something like that, saying that they were looking fundraising for kids with cancer. And I said, let me see if I can do that. But the only caveat in that was cycle for cancer. The only problem over there was I did not have a cycle, and I had left. I had done my cycling when I was in just in the beginning of my teens or something like that, which was for me decades and decades back, and never done cycling after that. So I went and bought myself a cycle, and I relearned on how to cycle. I got into that one, and now I got into again a fundraiser, which I have signed up for a Olympic triathlon. Again, not realizing that swimming is an integral part. So I have started swimming last October. So it is not even a year that I've learning to swim. I'm having a challenge. I've been putting it on my LinkedIn and my other posts that swimming is a challenge. But this one is swimming in the ocean, which is another beast by itself. It is very scary. Very, very scary. I mean, for a grown adult, getting into the water without knowing really how to swim and relearning, especially freestyle. Freestyle, I'm still in the process of trying to learn it. It's a challenge. But there again, I remind myself of peace. I remind myself, why am I doing it? And it's just one stroke after another.
So just reminding yourself of why you're doing what you're doing, repeating that almost becomes a mantra that helps you overcome any fears that you may have of tackling something new or unknown.
Sometimes you tend to forget all that when you're just gulping down the ocean water and you're gasping for air. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, what strikes me is that you very willingly tackle new challenges and you don't seem to give it a second thought. You just, if it needs to be done, you just develop the skills that you need to do to
True.
achieve it. So, and I think, is that because you're looking at what the greater goal is down the road? Is that if I
True.
perfect this goal, I am doing something to help my fellow human being.
I may not perfect that goal, but I'm working towards it. And this one, the fundraiser is for Ronald McDonald House,
Yep.
which takes care of cancer families to stay close to their uh, families who have been going through this dreaded, or in fact, its children who are going through this challenges. So I look into those families that, hey, listen, even if I can get in some bed covers for them, sure, let me see on how I can do a fundraising for that. So that's where I stand.
Yeah, the Ronald McDonald House is a great cause. It's a great organization. They do a lot to support families who are dealing with children that have had
True,
cancer. So they
true.
do a great job. Tell our audience about steps along the way. I mentioned that in your bio. So tell us a little bit about what Steps Along the Way is about, the services you provide through that, and just give our audience an overview.
Initially, when I had conceptualized steps along the way, as I mentioned, I have got a background of project management, IT, and I have interacted with a lot. I've been in this industry for around 30 years now, counting. And I realize a lot of us, especially in the project, I would say a lot of us, we are like the ducks in a pond. We may look okay on top, but down we are busy waddling, trying to stay afloat. So we are staying afloat either for the family or for paying off our debts or rents, etc., or trying to create a social or whatever it is. But it is a struggle. End of the day, we forget about what we can be to be a little more stronger. And as a coach, that's where I come into the picture. So initially, steps along the way was I'm helping you in your steps towards your journey, in your where you stand, that I could help you so that we will reach the goal in a space that you're comfortable with it. So I would have more about it would be a 6 weeks session or it could be a 3 weeks point. helping you in these particular things, wherein there's different elements of accountability, there's certain elements of different tasks, time management, etc. So I would get it. But Dave, once I got writing this particular book, I realized this book is a template what I've been wanting to teach my clients, because this gave me a blueprint on how to make people come to a point wherein they are not just existing through life, but living through life. So I changed the trajectory about steps along the way. It's not just helping the mid-level management or the top executives to be a little more resilient, etc., but to put infuse life into their daily activities, acknowledging the greatness within them, because everybody has got that to take them to the next level.
Yep.
And that's what I do. Of course, I am a keynote speaker also, and I've been a content creator. I've been practically every day or every second day, I put it out my musings on whether it's going out for a run or nowadays or for a swim or a cycle ride or something like that. I put out my thoughts on what's happening around, and I draw parallels about what we can do in life itself. So these are the few things that I work around with steps along the way.
Yeah, it sounds like a great individualized program, and I like the fact that you treat people as if they are capable of doing great things. It empowers them. The thing is that, and you know this, we have to buy into it because there's a lot of tapes that play in a lot of people's head over what they heard growing up in childhood
Hmm.
that, you're not going to amount to anything, you're just going to be average. And I believe in treating people as if they're capable of doing great things anyway. If we treat people as if they're capable of doing great things, eventually they're going to be empowered to feel that, and they're going to act in that manner. But we have to consistently, plant that message that you are capable of doing great things. Forget the old tapes, forget what your previous experiences in terms of people who wanted you to buy into your limitation as opposed to your potential. I'm here to help you see your potential and take that potential so that you can achieve a level of impactfulness or greatness that you choose to achieve.
That's so true. Because, and you said it so beautifully, is that a lot of us, we carry the baggages of our life gone by, how we have been taught. Maybe our parents never knew anything better, or maybe they knew, but this is the journey that they took on. So when I was growing up, again, from my own cultural point of view, the things which I learned was auditing other people's life. What I meant by that was I could either compare myself to them, or I could criticize them, or I could complain about it, or it could be all about myself. Oh, I cannot do it because I think so, I'm weak. It's funny that when I talk to somebody that I've done these runs, the first thing they immediately jump on is that, oh, you know what, even my knees are weak. But I never asked you anything about running. I'm just telling you about what I've done running. So why you are immediately coming to a point of comparing yourself to me? You've
Mhm.
got your own strengths. So you would either complain, oh, that person has got the money, that's the reason he's able to do it. Or he's just lucky. Or it could be compare, complain, or criticize.
Yeah.
They got it. So I, again, through this journey in resilience, I converted that again into something else which is more powerful. That when you have compassion, when you have a cause, when you are creative about what you're doing, and when you take on a challenge that overcomes any of the three-legged stool of criticizing, complain, and compare, criticize, and complete to another level.
It's not only empowers us, but it helps us become accountable.
Of course. So it's how you look at the other side, what life is giving you to be. So these are the elements also which I put along in my courseware.
Now, the marathon mindset method, how does that differ from steps along the way, or is there some overlap with that?
It is very much an overlap. So, as a coach, when I'm training people, I used to help people in for running also. And again, as a mindset coach, as a marathon mindset coach, I realizes that when I'm going with them, I'm not going behind them, neither I'm going ahead of them. I'm going along with them and looking at the journey what they are taking to where what is possible. But every step we are taking, there's another question I keep on asking my clients or my partners is that what else is possible? Because as a coach, I know the value of the human answer that we know most of the answers. We are aware of the answer. It is just that at times we have got some blinders which is put across and we are not accepting it or seeing that further than that. So as a coach, when I get a marathon mindset, is that yes, you decided to go in for maybe a 10K run, but let me help you to get to a 42 kilometer run. So that's where I work around with a marathon mindset. And once we come to when we once we start knocking, so recent past, some of the clients that I've been working around, they're managers, and I when I'm working along with them, I don't. They come in as managers, but usually when they walk out, they are human developers. They are in the space of helping other people to succeed. Because when you allow other people to succeed, that's when you succeed yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. And if you're helping others, you also position yourself as a potential mentor and a teacher. When I was a middle manager, I always wanted to have staff that I helped to develop or I helped to make their skills better or provide those resources. I wanted them to be better than me because if they're out there doing the work and they're doing it well, it's a reflection on me as a leader. And
So true.
and a lot of times I've seen leaders in when I worked that had difficulty teaching because they were afraid that, well, that person becomes better than me. It's going to take away from the attention I get as a leader. And that's further from the truth. What it's going to do is
So powerful.
enhance your skills as a leader.
That's right.
And many times we forget that humanistic approach to leadership, and we forget that our best staff is our best trained staff. And we can't do that if our leaders aren't providing the resources for them to be the best that they can be.
So true. So I move them from being just managers to, but come to a point wherein they are leading people.
Yep.
So that's where I work around
Yep.
reality.
We aren't born leaders. I mean, I think it's an acquired skill. We have to learn. I think we have to learn how to lead. A good therapist doesn't necessarily make a good supervisor. And many times therapists are promoted to supervisory positions because of their merits as a therapist. But
Hmm.
then when they get there, they realize that the skills that they had as a therapist may not serve them as well in a supervisory capacity because they have to learn how to build teams. They have to learn how to really deal with at times some very fragile egos. They need to learn how to mediate. So I suggest to my students, if you're going to go into an administrative position from a direct practice position or a line position, take a couple of good supervisory trainings and understand the skill set that you're going to need to develop to be successful in an administrative role. You need to be prepared for that position that you're being promoted to.
Absolutely wonderful.
So we are just about coming to the end of our discussion. This has been great so far. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank
But I
you.
but I do have a couple of more questions for you.
Sure.
And one is this is not even related to anything we've talked about. This is my surprise question that I alluded to
Please
earlier.
go for it.
The perfect day. If you could construct the perfect day for yourself, not for anybody else, what does your perfect day in the life of Thomas Scaria look like?
A perfect day would be. It's surprising that you asked me that question, and I've been working toward that particular day because end of the day, who creates a perfect day? It is I, me, myself, what my vision is. One of the elements which I have always kept in mind time and again, and if I forget that life gives me the blows to understand, is that expectations reduces joy in life. So there are times wherein I have got expectations, and when it doesn't reach that level, I feel disappointed at the end of the day. But who's to be blamed? Is it the environment? Is it somebody else who's holding the key to it? No, it is me. It goes back to the happiness theory that I keep along, is that happiness is something, a emotion. When something happens, you're happy. But underlying to it, there is a sense of joy, the journey, as a marathoner, as a runner, or as now as a cyclist, or when today when I was had gone on to the community pool and doing it. There was a time when you're just in zone, you're with the water, you become the water. So you asked me what is a perfect day. For me, the perfect day is getting up, being the for me, getting up, and the first thing put my hand on my heart and I say, "Thank you for this day." There's something wonderful which starts off. So it starts off in that particular way. There are a lot of times when I forget about it, and spending some time in meditation before the day begins, even before I can really look onto my phone, etc. And if given a chance, go out and do a workout, or it could be in fact doing some stretching or yoga early in the morning also is a very, for me it is very transcendental. Listening to some light music and then picking up on activities. So activities there again, I always think it has to be a good activity. No, it's your choice how you want to make an activity.
Yeah.
I would like to go out for a walk. Sure, what's stopping you? So for me, a perfect day is I can move myself away from my ego, when I can get away from my body or the limitations, but believe that what I'm doing is making my heart sing and my soul dance. That would be a perfect day. Spending time with the family, of course. Spending time not in advising people, but step by step helping them to see how things are. And in the process, you have put it as the teaching journeys. You know you are a podcaster. You realize that when you're sitting on the other side, it's not just about your journeys, but how many we can learn. Because when I got into podcasting, I know this was a time wherein my book was just getting ready for publishing. I had that gap. I don't knew what to do. And I said, okay, let me learn about other people who are going through life's journey and see. This was in November 2024. In the year 2025, I was blessed to have more than 120 guests on my show who told me that the underlying message was life happens. Let's, what's the next step? My podcast, Resilience Plus Rise, is all about people who look back at life and say, oh, you pushed me down. Now this is my way. I will live life. So that's where I stand, is that a perfect day, it's always a choice how we want to make it a wonderful day.
With yoga, meditation, family, workout, that's good for the mind, it's good for the body, and it's good for the spirit.
So,
And that could be a perfect day in anybody's book. And you mentioned earlier about, and I'm paraphrasing this, about sometimes we are kind of the victim of expectations, and we
yes,
live each day with a certain expectation that we're going to get this done or get that done or achieve this goal or that goal. But Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the Four Agreements, one of them is do your best. And what I remember about this is that he said that doing your best can vary from day to day depending on what's going on. So if we do our best, given the hand of cards that have been dealt with us for a certain day, if we had a lot of different obstacles, personal, professional, but we still had a day where we were able to accomplish a lot, then that day hasn't been lost. We did our best, and our best was okay given the circumstances that we had. I'll give you an example, Thomas. I had a student at Utica University. This was years ago. She was taking a class with me, and her father was diagnosed with cancer. So she was the primary caregiver. She had to get him to his chemo appointments. So she missed several classes. But she had talked to me about it, and I said, look, do what you need to do, your priorities with your father, your priorities with your family. I'll work with you with the absences. Do what you need to do. The end of the semester, she got a B or a B plus, I think, for the course. And then she said, you know, Dave, I'm usually a better student than that. I'm disappointed that I didn't do better. I looked at her and I said, your father was diagnosed with cancer, which you're looking at a life or death situation. You had to focus your time on taking in the chemo, worry about his well-being, and worry about keeping up with your studies. You did a great job juggling two very challenging situations. If I could give you a life grade, it would be an A plus. So your B for that semester, look at it as an A because you did your best given the circumstances that you were dealt.
Wonderful.
So release any expectations that you had of getting an A in any of your courses this semester, but just focus on doing your best.
Wonderful.
So thank you for offering that wisdom that generated some recall for me too of a very meaningful interaction with a student. Thomas, you have left us with many good things today, many good tips. But if you want our listeners to remember just one thing from our conversation today, what would that be?
I would say in this physical space or physical plane, you're having one life. Live life. Don't exist through life. Even if you're living it for another person, taking care, whether it's about the student taking care of the father, or for your children, or for your family, or for anything, make it a life well lived. So don't exist through life, live through life.
I think that's some really, really good advice. So thank you for that, Thomas. Now, my last question for you, if people want to get in touch with you, follow your podcast, purchase your book, contract for your services, what's the best way for them to do that?
I've got a website called resiliencerisemindset.com, or I'm on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a space wherein I look a lot of times on during the day. I communicate through LinkedIn, etc. But I'm also on Facebook as well as on Instagram, etc. And if they want to follow my podcast, I'm on Spotify and on YouTube. They can always check out with Resilience Plus Rise podcast, Thomas Scaria, and they'll be able to find me. Please subscribe. It's a journey, and when we help one another, that's one the we can make this life smoother. But again, Dave, we are connected on LinkedIn, and so in case somebody wants to connect with me or even ask me any question, I'm very much free, open, and ready. In case any of our listeners they are listening to this, they want to connect to me, do write Dave Roberts, and I'm saying the word connect. Don't just follow. And if I can help you in any way, it would be an honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much for just a wonderful conversation today. I truly enjoyed it, and hopefully we can do this again in the future.
God willing, sure.
And with that, that's a wrap on another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, wishing you peace.